Hello everybody. Today we are going to deal with one of the most celebrated works of William Shakespeare, Hamlet. Act 1, Scene 1. This scene occurs in Elsinore, Denmark. Bernardo the soldier takes over the duty from Francisco. Horatio is Hamlet's friend. Bernardo tells Horatio of having seen the ghost of the dead king. Horatio, Bernardo, and Marcellus see the ghost again. Horatio urges the ghost to speak as to why it came, but it never speaks up. The ghost fades away on hearing the cock crowing. Horatio decides to tell Hamlet about this. Marcello and Bernardo have seen the ghost twice before. The ghost is dressed in armor. Hamlet is a revenge tragedy. So that is all what occurs in Act 1, Scene 1. The security guards see the ghost, and the fact that they have seen the ghost is not reported to Hamlet, and it happens in the following scenes. So just that they have seen a ghost dressed in armor, just that happens in the first scene. Now Act 1, Scene 2. Claudius, Gertrude and Hamlet gets introduced in the scene. The dead king of Denmark, that is Hamlet's father, had killed the father of the young Fortinbras of Norway. So, Denmark is now facing a counterattack. Therefore, Claudius, the new king of Denmark, sends Voltimand and Cornelius to Norway, telling him that his nephew is launching a war against Denmark and do something to stop the war. So Laertes asks for Claudius' permission to return to France. Hamlet enters in a depressed mood. He is irritated as his mother got remarried soon after his father's death. Hamlet wants to go to Wittenberg to continue his studies, but then Claudius asks him to stay back. Meanwhile, Horatio informs Hamlet about the ghost of his father, and Hamlet decides to meet the ghost but then asks Horatio to keep it a secret. So here I hope the characters are a little more clear now. Claudius is Hamlet's stepfather, his uncle. His father, Hamlet's father, got killed recently. His mother got remarried soon to Claudius, his uncle. His mother's name is Gertrude. And Horatio is his friend. Horatio is Hamlet's friend, and Horatio informs Hamlet that a ghost of his father has been recently seen and asks Hamlet to keep it a secret. And also, Denmark is fearing that the Fortinbras are going to attack them, and so the new king, the newly appointed king Claudius, is trying every means to prevent that attack. So that is all what happened as of now. Now Act 1, Scene 3. Laertes is leaving to Paris. He bids farewell to Ophelia. Ophelia is Hamlet's girlfriend, and Ophelia's brother is Laertes. Laertes wants his sister of her relationship with Hamlet. Polonius is Laertes and Ophelia's father. Polonius advises his son Laertes before the journey, and this is a famous dialogue happening here. He says to Laertes to lend his ears and not his voice to things that happen around him. So the father asks his son to be a keen listener rather than interfering himself in everything that happens around and involving himself in everything that happens around. Instead, he says his son to stay back and observe what is happening. Lend an ear to everything that happens around you, but just then don't involve in everything that happens around you. Not to give his judgment in all the matters, and also never to be a borrower nor a lender, because it kills both the money and the friendship between the two. So he gives a very valuable advice to his son to never be a borrower nor a lender because it kills both the money and the friendship between the two people. Now, Polonius also warns Ophelia against her relationship with Hamlet. So, Ophelia is suspected to have an affair with Hamlet, and Polonius warns his sister Ophelia to be careful when continuing the relationship with Hamlet. Moving on to Act 1, Scene 4. Now, in Act 1, Scene 4, we see Hamlet on his mission to see the ghost. Hamlet sees the ghost, answers its call without thinking of any impending danger. Marcellus warns Hamlet against following the ghost, but Hamlet does not heed to their words. Act 1, Scene 5. The ghost reveals that it is his father's spirit and that he was murdered. It urges Hamlet to take revenge against Claudius for his father's death and spare his mother. The ghost reveals that Hamlet's father was killed by pouring poison into his ears when he was sleeping in the garden. Hamlet tells Marcellus and Horatio that this meeting should be kept a secret. So now we have come to the end of Act 1. In Act 1 we can see that Hamlet has already seen his father's ghost. The father's ghost informs that it is the ghost of his father and that the father was killed while he was sleeping in the garden. Poison was poured into his ears and thus he was killed. His father's spirit wants Hamlet to take revenge against his death. And he wants to take revenge against Claudius only, and he asks Hamlet to spare his mother Gertrude. So that is the main happening of Act 1, and now we are going to move to the Act 2. Act 2, Scene 1. Now we have already seen that Laertes has gone to Paris, France, and so Laertes is the brother of Ophelia and the son of Polonius. So he has gone to France and Reynaldo is sent to spy on Laertes. Ophelia reports of a strange meeting she had with Hamlet. Hamlet held her hands, stared at her and never said a word. Act 2, Scene 2. Claudius sends Rosencreutz and Guildenstern to inquire the reason behind Hamlet's change. Polonius tells Claudius that the reason behind Hamlet's changed behavior is his love with Ophelia and says that he will prove the same by arranging a meeting between Ophelia and Hamlet. Meanwhile, Voltman enters with a message from Norway that Norway will not attack Denmark. So we have seen in the first act, Act 1, Scene 1, that Voltman was sent to Norway with a message telling them not to attack Denmark. Claudius has sent the message to Norway and Voltman was the one who had taken the message to Norway. Now he returns with the reply from Norway that they will not attack Denmark and that there is something strange in this scene, that is everybody has started noticing a change in Hamlet's behavior, and Claudius, being intelligent, sends Rosencreutz and Guildenstern to understand what is the reason behind Hamlet's change. Now Polonius comes to know of this and he tells Claudius that Hamlet is in love with his daughter Ophelia, and so that may be the reason for the strange behavior that Hamlet is putting up these days. Now Polonius had warned his daughter Ophelia to be careful while dealing with Hamlet and to withdraw from the relationship with Hamlet. So Laertes had also warned his sister of the same. So because of that, Ophelia had taken a step back from her relationship with Hamlet, and so Polonius suspects that this withdrawal of Ophelia from their relationship is the reason behind the strange behavior of Hamlet. Now, Hamlet is having a conversation with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern were appointed by Claudius to meet Hamlet and understand what is the reason behind his strange behavior. So it is in Hamlet's conversation with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern wherein he talks about the nobility of the creation of man. Now players arrive in Denmark. Hamlet gets to meet them. Hamlet, in a soliloquy, worries about the delayed revenge. So he wants to take a revenge against Claudius for having killed his father. But then the actual time wherein he can execute his revenge is not happening. He has to prove that Claudius had done this crime before taking his revenge. So he can't take the words of the ghost for granted. So he had to prove the same. He had to prove that Claudius had actually killed his father before he could take revenge against Claudius. For this, he decides to stage a play of his father's death before his uncle. Act 3, Scene 1. Now, it's in this scene that we get to read the very famous To Be or Not to Be soliloquy of Hamlet. Hamlet is actually frustrated and worried about the delayed revenge. Hamlet gets to meet Ophelia, but he rejects her. Their conversation is overheard by Claudius and Polonius, and Claudius doubts that it's not Ophelia that is the cause of Hamlet's transformation, and he doubts something else. Act 3, Scene 2. Hamlet shares a moment with the actors and plans the play. Horatio is appointed to observe Claudius while the play is being staged. Hamlet is trying to prove that what the ghost told him is actually true or not. Hamlet spends time with Ophelia during the play and tells her to see how happy his mother is even after 2 hours of his father's death. Then Ophelia says that it's been 2 months and not 2 hours. Now we actually see the play being staged there. The play is called Mousetrap. Gonzago the Duke and Baptista is the wife. So Gonzago represents Claudius and Baptista represents Gertrude. Claudius seemed disturbed during the play and he walks off. So it's there what they had actually planned and executed that is being staged in front of their eyes. And so this disturbs Claudius and Claudius walks off the play. Gertrude says she wants to speak with Hamlet. Act 3, Scene 3. Claudius is seen praying. Hamlet is all set for the murder. But then he refrains from doing it as Claudius is praying. Claudius appoints Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to accompany Hamlet on his journey to England. Act 3, Scene 4. Gertrude and Hamlet have a talk. Polonius is hiding, listening to their conversation. Thinking it's Claudius, Hamlet kills him. Hamlet lashes out in a vulgar language against his mother. Then the ghost appears and asks him not to harm his mother. Hamlet asks her to give up her life with Claudius and repent for the crime. Hamlet judges correctly that Claudius is planning to murder him on his trip to England. Now we go to the Act 4, Scene 1. Gertrude reports to Claudius that Hamlet murdered Polonius. Claudius sends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to call for Hamlet. Act 4, Scene 2. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern ask Hamlet where the dead body of Polonius is, but he does not reveal it to them. Act 4, Scene 3. Claudius asks Hamlet where Polonius is. Claudius asks Hamlet to leave for England and appoints Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to accompany Hamlet with a letter addressed to the King of England directing him to kill the carrier of the letter. Act 4, Scene 4. Hamlet has a talk with the captain of Fortinbras who asks permission for his army to cross through Denmark peacefully to attack Poland. Hamlet, in a soliloquy, reassures himself that if Fortinbras can lead an army to war, then definitely he can take revenge against his father's death. Act 4, Scene 5. Ophelia goes mad on coming to know of her father's death. The king says, when sorrows come, they come in a battalion. Laertes comes to take revenge on his father's death. Laertes had left for Paris, and knowing of his father's death, he comes back to take revenge on his father's death. Laertes gets to know that his sister Ophelia also has gone mad. Act 4, Scene 6. Horatio receives a letter from Hamlet. A pirate ship attacked them on their journey to England. Hamlet is taken a prisoner. But they were kind to him. Hamlet, knowing the trap against him, sends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to England with the letter. Act 4, Scene 7. Claudius receives a letter from Hamlet that he will reach Denmark soon. King urges Laertes to fight against Hamlet. Laertes plans to kill Hamlet with a poisoned sword during the duel. Claudius prepares a backup plan to poison the wine in case he asks for a drink during the fight. Queen reports that Ophelia is drowned. Act 5. Act 5, Scene 1. The grave digging scene happens in this particular act. Hamlet jumps into the grave. Laertes and Hamlet have a fight. Act 5, Scene 2. Hamlet tells Horatio what happened during his England trip. Hamlet tells Horatio that he is sorry for Laertes. Claudius poisons Hamlet's wine and Gertrude drinks this glass. Laertes and Hamlet wounds each other. Laertes tells Hamlet that all this was Claudius' plan. Hamlet stabs Claudius with the poisoned sword and forces him to drink the rest of the poisoned wine. Hamlet tells Horatio that he is dying and that Horatio should stay back to tell the story to the world. So that's all for the day. Thank you. Hope you had a clear idea about the storyline of Hamlet, a scene by scene idea about the storyline of Hamlet. So keep watching videos, keep learning. Thank you.